All right, let's talk about a word that, well, it makes most of us pretty uncomfortable, right? Vulnerability. For years, the researcher Brené Brown has been digging into this feeling, and what she found is honestly completely counterintuitive. We're going to unpack her incredible idea that running away from vulnerability isn't actually making us any safer, and that leaning into it, that might just be the bravest thing we can possibly do. So let's just start with the big question that kind of hangs over this whole topic. And I want you to be really honest with yourself for a second. What's your gut reaction? If you're anything like me or, most people, there's the little voice in there that probably says, yeah, of course it is. I mean, we've been taught our entire lives that vulnerability is weakness, something you have to put armor on to protect yourself from, something to hide at all costs. But what if that gut reaction is just wrong? According to years and years of research, that feeling is based on a huge misunderstanding. In fact, it's the single most common myth there is about vulnerability. And over the next few minutes, we are going to take it apart piece by piece. To do that, to really dismantle that myth, we first need a totally new definition of courage. And this is where Brené Brown's work just flips everything we thought we knew completely on its head. She reframes what being vulnerable truly means. And here it is. This is the big one. This is the whole idea. Brené's research defines vulnerability not as a weakness at all, but as the birthplace, the very origin point of the things we want most in our lives: creativity, innovation, and that real deep connection. Just think about that for a second. It's not about winning or losing. It's about having the raw courage to just show up, to let yourself be seen, even when you have absolutely zero control over what happens next. This really puts the two mindsets side by side, and wow, the contrast is stark. On the left, you've got the myth we're all living in, that constant pressure to be perfect, the fear of what other people will think, the hiding. But the truth, over on the right, is that embracing vulnerability is courage. It's about choosing authenticity. It's about just showing up, and it's about building real connection by finally letting ourselves be truly seen. Okay, so that all sounds great in theory, but what does it actually look like in the real world? How do we do it? This next section is all about the practical stuff, the actual steps for applying this kind of courage in our own lives. So the key to all this is building what Brown calls shame resilience, and it's a 3-step process. First, we just have to get honest with ourselves and recognize what triggers that universal feeling of I'm not good enough. Second, and listen, this one takes guts. We have to share that story with someone we really, really trust. And then finally, we can start to rewrite that story, that narrative that's playing inside our own heads. And this quote just illustrates that third step perfectly. It's such a small shift in language, but it is so powerful. You have to separate your actions from who you are. It's about realizing you are not your mistakes. You are a person who sometimes makes them. And you know what? That's okay. So here's your homework, your practice. You can start small. Find a safe space, maybe with a friend, a partner, a therapist, and take that courageous first step of sharing your ideas and feelings openly. And at the same time, we have to totally redefine what success means to us. It's about letting go of that need for everything to be flawless and instead celebrating the effort, celebrating just showing up and what we learn when we do. Now, this isn't just about our personal lives. These ideas become absolutely revolutionary when we start applying them to how we lead other people. And that could be in an office, on a sports team, or even right inside our own families. So, how do you lead with courage? Well, it all starts with modeling the behavior yourself. When a leader can stand up and say, I don't know, or I messed up, it doesn't show weakness at all. It builds incredible trust. It gives everyone else permission to be human too. It shifts a culture from one of criticism to one of curiosity. And maybe most importantly, it normalizes failure. It reframes it not as the end of the road, but as a crucial, necessary step on the path to innovation. So why do all this hard work? What is the ultimate reward for daring greatly and actually embracing our vulnerability? The goal is something Brown calls wholehearted living. And what does a life like that actually look like?
Well, it looks like engaging with the world authentically, without that heavy armor of pretending to be someone you're not. It means practicing real compassion and gratitude, but also having the strength to set healthy boundaries so you don't burn out. Ultimately, it's about building a life that is a true reflection of your deepest values.
So, if you only remember one thing from this entire explainer, please let it be this. Courage and vulnerability are not opposites. They're completely tied together. You literally cannot have one without the other. True courage just can't exist without vulnerability.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. And look, it doesn't have to be some huge, life-altering thing. It can be small. What is one way, just one, that you can choose courage over comfort and dare greatly this week?